Kita akan mulai dengan presentasi dari masing-masing speaker kami. Ada Gavin Tan, ada Martyna, dan ada Rizki. Our first speaker will be Gavin. Gavin Tan is the CEO and co-founder at Brick. He was in charge, prior to Brick, he was in charge of the General Counsel and Partnership in Aspire. I'm pretty sure all of us here know Aspire. Gavin graduated with a Bachelor of Law from SMU in Singapore and even worked as a lawyer focusing on regulatory advisory, dispute resolution, and criminal defense specialist. Without further ado, I'm gonna share the spotlight to Gavin. Gavin, feel free to share your presentation.
Thank you, Jess. So yes, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yep. So hi, everybody. Good evening. I'm Gavin. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Brick, and we are an open data API startup focused on Indonesia. Right? And really honored to be here today, invited by Startup Grind to share with you guys our thoughts on the challenges and innovations in Indonesia's fintech landscape. Right? A bit here and more in the panel that we have later with both Martyna and Rizki. So at Brick, the team at Brick, we have been trying to solve challenges with some of your favorite fintech apps who we work with as our clients the past couple of years. And we've seen multiple challenges that these fintechs have faced, right? But before that, right, let's take a look at the landscape. And it's old news by now that the fintech landscape in Indonesia has really boomed in the last 5 years. And a key driver of this boom is really the growth in Indonesia's internet economy, which has grown to about $130 billion this year. And this growth and momentum is not stopping. Right? Experts and economists project that Indonesia's internet economy might grow to up to $400 billion by 2030. Right? And what this means for the fintech space in Indonesia is that there has been a huge boom in the number of viable fintech models and the number of viable fintech startups in Indonesia. Right? We've selected 3 of the more prominent verticals on the right, but really there are 15 to 20 different fintech verticals that are thriving and really booming these days. Right? But moving into some of the challenges now that these fintechs are facing, especially fintechs in the lending space, like P2P lenders, buy now, pay later apps, multi-finance companies, they're also moving into the space. They face a huge challenge of increasing credit risk and non-performing loans, right? And this challenge and risk really came to hit in the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, right, in 2020. So if we look on the right, you see that past 90-day due defaults are typically below 2% in 2021 when things have normalized, but it spiked as high as almost 9% in August 2020. And this credit risk problem, NPL problem, really stems from 2 challenges that we repeatedly see in the fintech space in Indonesia. And the first problem is data right now, especially good alternative data, is siloed across all your different apps. Right? You have your bank data siloed in your banks, your e-wallets siloed in your e-wallets, e-commerce, telcos, all of them are not talking to each other. Right? So there's no proper data sharing mechanism between all these alternative data sources to collaborate and solve the credit risk problem in a smart way. Right? But even if there were a proper data sharing mechanism from the official sources today, right, 51% of Indonesians are unbanked, 75% don't regularly use a bank account. And what this means is there's no good source of bank data. For many people, their sleek data or their credit data with the government bureau is often empty or underpopulated, right? And that's why alternative data is so important. And being somebody who came from the lending space myself, when I was part of Aspire and some of my colleagues, we experienced this problem firsthand, and we decided to come up with a solution to solve this problem. That's why we started Brick, to really help fintech companies and other technology companies with their open data strategy, and help use alternative data to supercharge end users' experience like yourself in your fintech apps, right? And specific to the credit and underwriting problem, what we do is build data infrastructure, data connection that allow any end user to safely and securely share their income data, employment data, e-commerce data, right? And how we do this at Brick is all through just one line of code. And with just one line of code, fintech innovators now can implement a world-class in-app widget that allows end users like yourself to safely and securely share a range of alternative financial data to your app that is clean. It comes with pre-built insights and analytics. Okay? And hopefully with this, we can help bring financial services to the unbanked, underbanked segment in Indonesia. So yep, that's a quick intro from me and what we do at Brick. Look forward to speaking with all of you during Q&A and the panel later.
Oh, that was less than 10 minutes. Okay, thank you so much, Gavin. That was such an interesting value proposition that you're trying to bring at Brick. We're gonna talk more with Gavin after in the panel talk, but we have the next speaker here. So the next speaker is Rizki Aditya. Rizki Aditya is the co-founder and CEO of Monit. Previously, he was a software engineer in several companies over 5 years in various countries, including San Francisco, Vancouver, and also Germany. Sorry, various cities. Yeah, so every one of our speakers here come from different backgrounds. Yeah, Gavin is a lawyer, Rizki is a software engineer, and we have Martyna later from various careers also. So without further ado, please, Mas Rizki, feel free to share your startup.
Okay, it's great to see all of you. Thanks for having me. Let me share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen right now?
Perfect.
Yeah, just a quick background about myself. So like mentioned before, I'm Rizki Aditya. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Monit. Before I built Monit with my co-founder, I spent several years as a software engineer in several companies overseas, primarily focused on computer vision. The reason why I built Monit is based on my personal experience dealing with business banking in Indonesia, where it's totally broken. So with Monit, we try to fix all those things. Sorry, can you see? Is it changing?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Full screen, right?
Yes, beautiful.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Monit is cash management software and corporate card for business. We combine payments, expenses, cash, and corporate card into one integrated experience. So Monit backed by Bukalapak co-founders, Initiative Ventures, and Fintech VCs, 1982 Ventures. And over decades, business use internet banking when it comes to payment. And as we know that business tools keep evolving, but internet banking is not. It is ancient system that cannot play with other software, causing a lot of inefficiency. And there's a massive gap between bank account and business software, currently bridged with a lot of manual data entry, paying for reconciliation, and chasing of receipts. And finance teams are forced to manage multiple disconnected systems without the ability to control and clear real-time visibility over company spend. And moreover, when business need other financial products such as corporate card, it's killing their growth because it's time-consuming to apply, and the card limit is not flexible. And the complexity grows exponentially when business expands, leading to slow decision-making and ultimately stagnating revenues. The way we fix all those problems by developing a truly unified experience of business banking from the ground up. so company can focus on what's really matter, and they can go faster. We partner with existing financial institutions such as issuer banks, card networks, and switchers to make it happen. So Monit, the only tech companies in Indonesia that provide corporate card with more local merchant coverage on the market today. And let me show you how it works. So Monit allows you to create a multiple wallet, making budgeting has never been easier before. You can create a payment by uploading a PDF of your invoice and forward email. Monit will scan automatically all the data so you don't have to, and including invoice number, list items, or even bank details. Pay with one click or approvals. We built advanced approval system to be used for mid-sized company and also large company with more than 1,000 employees. With this approval system, you can set any parameters such as amount range, request of the payment, role of the user, or even specific recipients. You can also issue virtual or physical cards with limits and control for any kind of expenses. You can link the card with your wallet as you wish. Assign card to your team, and you can use card anywhere. And Monit will remind your employee for the receipts the moment they spend with the card, so you don't have to. And Monit will automatically match the receipt with the transaction comes from the card. You can connect Monit with accounting software such as Xero. Monit will sync automatically all the data, so you don't have to do double data entry anymore. With Monit, you can see the overview of your company spend in real time. So that's pretty much it. If you are interested to learn more about Monit, you can request demo at monit.id. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mas Rizki. Wow, everyone's presentation is so brief. Okay, so we have one more panelist who will present on their startup. So our last but not least, we have Martyna Malinowska. She is the co-founder and CPO of Gaji Gesa. And prior to that, she was a product lead in SC Ventures by Standard Chartered, product director at Lindo. And before her product career, she had various careers from analyst at JP Morgan to consultant in Micra Foundation and other careers. So without further ado, please, Martyna, feel free to take the spotlight.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica, and thank you everyone for the introduction. Maybe what I will do is I will tell you a bit more about my personal story, because I feel like what we've built here in Gaji Gesa is pretty much has very long background. Because as you, Jessica, mentioned, I've been actually in a finance space for my entire career. I started journey with Fintech space 6 years ago, and I've been in Asia itself for 10 years. So Gaji Gesa, for those who haven't heard about us, our vision is to become a first choice employee financial wellness platform focused on the blue collar segment in Indonesia. A bit more how we came, how we have come up with the idea of Gaji Gesa and what problem we are solving. So actually, for the last 4 years, which I spent in a fintech career, I spend a lot of time with blue collar employees or individuals who are earning a minimum wage across the Southeast Asia markets. And what I have learned is that the common challenge with a short-term liquidity issue, which touched all of them, and solution was not always alone. So what I have learned is that actually providing employees or individuals with long-term loans or expensive loans when they face a short-term financial stress was very inefficient, and was harming their financial ability and putting them in this unfortunate spiral of a loan life cycle which they couldn't pay out because it was expensive, and they were just getting more and more in debt with different borrowers to be able to pay the loan repayment on time. 2 years ago, I came up together with my co-founder with an idea of introducing earned wage access in Indonesia. So earned wage access is a concept quite popular in Western markets, which evolves around ability to stream wages real time to the employees. We introduced Gaji Gesa 2 years ago to the first customers in Indonesia, and the problem we are solving, as I mentioned, is that solving for the short-term liquidity problems of the workers. As we learned on the ground before we actually launched the product, 7 out of 10 employees in Indonesia are actually not able to be efficient at work because of financial stress. And financial stress is quoted as a main reason for either attrition or inability to meet cope up with the work challenges. We are 2 years old, and we raised our pre-series A in December last year, and currently our platform has significantly evolved from just being able to stream wages to employees real time, so streaming wages as employees earn them. So maybe let me give you an example what actually the earned wage access mean. What we do is we are a B2B2C model. So we actually partner with the employer to be able to empower employees to be financially independent. We integrate with the employer's employee management solutions to be able to calculate real-time wages for the employees. And after that, employees can do different things with the wage they already earned, which is available on our application. They can either cash it out to the bank account, or if they don't have a bank account, to the e-wallet. But they can also use this earned wage balance as a payment method. So we've onboarded different products and services on our platform, which are financially responsible or help employees to cope up with different day-to-day challenges, such as microinsurance or health consultation is also available on our app, which then can pay from the accrued balance with just one push of a button. On the top of this, we also build different solutions around savings and investments. So we are helping employees to also maximize their earned wages. So we help them to save the wages, we help them to understand how much they can spend day to day, and we help them also to spend them in responsible manner. I won't go into the detail, but maybe just a very brief user experience. I will present to you a few screens here. So as an employee, I can just log into the app and I will log in with my OTP, which is sent to my phone number. And after that, I can actually see my accrued wage. And as I mentioned, accrued wage is being populated based on our information on the employee productivity, which is coming from the employer. And from there, I can either cash it out or basically purchase different products and services from the balance. So that's the experience in glance, but we keep on building on it, and we are continuously looking for different partners who want to offer responsible products to the employees. The other, I would say, differentiation point between us and different wellness platforms providers in the market is that there is not really a provider focusing purely on a blue collar segment. Us white collar employees do have access to a lot of benefits. Let's take insurance as an example. And a blue collar employee who's working in a factory typically doesn't have these luxuries. So this is where we Gaji Gesa come across these different challenges the employees have on a daily basis, and we help them to bring their dignity and help them to take control of their finances and maximize every rupiah which they earn every day. So that's it from my side. I will probably go over details in terms of what challenges we face and what opportunities we see in the market as we go further into the panel discussion.
Okay, thank you so much, Martyna. So everyone here, I just want to share more about the objective of this event, and maybe if one of these objectives relate to you, so you can prepare your questions accordingly. So if you're a founder, maybe you can learn from their challenges and solutions. If you're a business owner, maybe you can consider their softwares to help grow your business. And if you're here just to learn about fintech industry, these 3 panelists have hands-on real-time update on the industry, so you can also ask questions about that. So we're going to go into the panel session now. And again, feel free to drop your questions in the chat box. I'm going to prioritize those who want to unmute their mic. So feel free to raise your hand if you want to ask any questions. So the first question, let me ask this to Gavin first. Considering you've been operating in Indonesia for a few years, one plus year, right?
Couple of years, yeah, 2+ years.
So how has the market responded to your product, and what are the main challenge that you're facing as a new offering in the market?
Yeah, so I would say generally the market has responded well to our offerings and products. Something unique about how Brick started was maybe unlike other startups. I was facing this credit underwriting problem, both in terms of data access or access to good alternative data, and also a very heavy manual process, right? I was experiencing that myself when I was helping scale Aspire in Indonesia. So I was looking for a solution like this, couldn't find a solution, found a couple other people who were facing the same problem, and we decided to start Brick together. So it's a problem that we faced ourselves before, right? Rather than us trying to go into the market and look for a problem to solve. So that's something unique. Generally, the market has responded well, but I think the main challenge we are facing is there's still a lot of market education needed in terms of what exactly open finance, open data is, and how it can help improve your fintech service or your technology offering. Okay. So yeah, that's the biggest challenge we're facing today.
I see. How about you, Mas Rizki? Do you face the same challenge?
Well, we actually face the same challenge. I think I would say that a lot of companies in Indonesia are still not familiar with the product like Monit. And some of them even referring us to accounting software, which is not true. But they're already familiar with the corporate card. So sometimes, yeah, that's where we come in. The market is early, I would say, but luckily we got significant growth from early adopters, like tech companies, e-commerce. And initially we target like mid-sized companies like 15 to 50 employees. But unexpectedly, we also got significant demand from the larger ones. We just launched like 6 months ago, but we already almost got 100 customers now. Speaking about the challenge, the biggest challenge, I would say, we did something that most startups did in the early days, which is shipping the product as soon as possible and then get the feedback as many as possible. I think the downside of this kind of mindset, especially in the fintech, well, first of all, fintech is heavily regulated space, so you will probably need certain license to operate, especially in Indonesia. So to speed up the product launch, sometimes you need to partner with the existing financial institution that already have the license that you want. And that's what's happening with Monit, because now you substitute some part of your product to other people, and now you rely on other people's system, that's the big challenge, because sometimes you need to take responsibility if something goes wrong, even though it's not your fault. I mean, I remember one day we have a rough day, all transactions suddenly failed. And then we got, a lot of complaints from our customers, and turned out that our transfer service went down. So we couldn't do anything because we didn't have any control over it. So in order to overcome that, now we try to partner with multiple vendors, and also we design our platform to be flexible so that if something goes wrong, our platform will adapt automatically will switch to other vendors.
Okay, thank you for that tips. Maybe for some of you startups here, you can also implement the same strategy of not relying too much on one partner and having backups as a backup plan. I'm also interested in Martyna. I would think that your service has been used before in Indonesia one way or the other. So do you face any challenge or maybe backlash from introducing this to the market?
So that's a very interesting statement. I'm not sure it was really used, but I think there are a lot of similar products which we try to compare ourselves to so that users can actually understand what we do, right? Because when I say streaming wages real time, I think I really need to get into technicalities, right, to explain how it works. So the first challenge we had, and I feel like we still have it, though it's been significantly reduced over the last few months, is the same as was mentioned here, is education of the market and I think branding. So the first comparison of EWA, which comes up in Indonesia, the most similar product is obviously a loan. So now we are trying to explain how we are different from a loan, that we are actually closer to, I would say, real-time payroll or a payments solution instead of a loan. So we had to play quite a lot in terms of terminology, words, A/B test, invest a lot in branding. And the additional difficulty to this situation is that we deal with a blue-collar segment who is online, but not as online as I would say the emerging middle class, the millennials. So the education which came from us also had to go hand in hand with an education from HR. So because we had to partner with employer and HR to socialize our solution. So what we've learned from that experience, something what I guess I wouldn't think as the first solution to the problem, at least when we launched the product, is that we really need to invest in the ecosystem and ecosystem awareness and collaborate with the ecosystem. So what we have done in terms of collaboration, as an example, we have to work very closely with HR, and we have to help also an HR in terms of communication, but also digitization of this whole employee management process to some extent, because in factories, garment factories, right, there is no technology at all to manage employees, but employees use our app. So now how do we get to these employees? How are we going to make sure that the message is delivered in the right way? It's correct, that we get close to the users trust us, so we could not do it without HR. That's why we also collaborate, organize a lot of different events, certifications for HR individuals who are very important partners for us. And we help also to empower them in terms of digitization of some of the processes, which help us to get more reliable and accurate data about the employees and their earned wages.
I see. So I think it's quite similar to what, for example, Brick is. I know Brick is currently using, for example, partnership with ecosystem players and community to really educate the market. Okay, for my second question, I'm interested to know, what do you think is one innovation in the fintech scene in the past few years that you think will stay and will be amplified in the upcoming years? Because we know like trends come and go. Some tools are irrelevant right now. So maybe Gavin, you can answer that question.
I have a bit of a boring answer, actually. I think one innovation that will stay and be very exciting is cheaper and easier real-time payments for consumers and businesses. So it seems like payments is a thing that has been worked on for ages already, 50 years. There's so much development also this past couple of years. But I think there's still a lot to be done. And one super interesting development is the launch of BI Fast, right, by Bank Indonesia, and then now with banks rolling it out. I think those users who are Bank Jago users, Permata users, you have seen it in your app already. So there's also still a lot of interesting use cases that can be built on top of BI Fast, for example. Yeah, so I think that's the big trend.
Okay. Maybe in 5 years, we're going to refer back to this talk and see which prediction comes true. How about you, Martyna? What do you think will stay?
I have exactly the same answer, because what we do in reality is a way of payments. We stream salaries, we pay salaries real time. But to do it, we still need to use payment rails. Now, feels like it's still not that cheap to enable real-time transactions to all the different banks in Indonesia, as well as the wallets. So it has been a challenge for us to be able to offer, the product even cheaper, and use different service. We also have contingency plans. We use one provider, then the second and third if something fails, and the failure happened very often. So I definitely support what Gavin said, and a very good example of what democratizing payments means can be what's happening in India, right, with UPI. Like so many innovations happening in payments, but then it escalates more towards financial management. It just creates limitless opportunities for the users and the ecosystem and the government.
Okay. Mas Rizki, do you have a different answer to that?
Yeah, that's correct. A little bit different. So I'll vote open banking actually, because it will unlock more innovation around banking activities like Brick did actually. And the reason that new technology is raising people expectation on how they access their own financial data anywhere. So I think in order to compete with non-bank, bank should give kind of access to non-bank, so that instead of competing each other, they can collaborate to give exceptional experience for the customers. Right now, if you purchase something like, let's say on the e-commerce, when it comes to payment, you will need to open your mobile banking in order to complete the payment. So with open banking allows you to simplify that process. So instead of opening other apps, you can just simply complete that payment inside the e-commerce app itself. So I think that would be seamless for experience.
Okay, we have a huge testimony for Brick here. How about the participants here today? Maybe you can also share your thoughts. Apa sih yang menurut kalian itu akan menjadi tren yang akan stay di dalam fintech industry? Maybe bisa share di teks, di chat ya, kok di teks sih. Okay, so for my next question, I'm gonna answer the questions from the audience in a bit. So feel free to keep asking your questions in the chat box while I ask my questions first. So for the next question, do you think with all of this upcoming and rising fintech players, do you think the financial sector in Indonesia is already saturated? Or do you think there are any other opportunities for innovations? Maybe Gavin, you would like to answer that first?
I definitely think we are super early in the journey, and there's still a huge opportunities in Indonesia, in Southeast Asia as a whole. We're only just getting started. I think all the companies here are no more than 2.5 years old, perhaps, right? So many new models are just even coming up in the last year to 2 years. Before that, what we've seen is the boom in e-wallets, boom in fintech lending. I think that's about it, right? And a lot of innovation has all these ajaib, bibit investments, savings, personal finance management, and wage access, SMB banking. All these are in the past year to at most 2 years.
If you guys can make a prediction, like, I mean, there are a lot of prediction that eventually it's going to be monopolized by one player only. Everyone's going to merge and be acquired. Martyna, what are your thoughts on that?
So I feel like consolidation is actually building super apps, and consolidations is maybe I would say building super apps first is a very popular strategy in Southeast Asia and in Asia, right? I think unlike in other markets, there is more, I feel like, partnerships, building ecosystem through partnerships. So here there is actually a lot of pressure, to do things on your own, which is tough. But just coming to your original question, I feel like this will change. And one of the reasons this will change is because if we look at the high-level statistics, I think only around 23% or so fintech companies have some sort of a focus outside Java. So the access to the financial services and the innovations is still only available to the exclusive audience, which are heavily digitized individuals, right? So there is ample of opportunity for innovation. And I can give the example of how we see the difference between, let's say, Java or tier 1, 2 cities and the tier 3 cities. So in Java and tier 1, tier 2 cities, employees are paid to the bank account. And that's pretty standard. Employers either would partner with a bank or employees would have a bank account set up as a salary account at minimum. But once we go outside, we deal with cash. So we are now like looking also to facilitate manual cash outs, which we can also to enable our product to those individuals. So there's ample of opportunity for innovations. And I think that the only way to solve it is a collaboration, which I see that this is how the market is moving towards. And I hope it will continue. And it won't be like that everyone is trying to build their own super app and just close the ecosystem for others.
Do you think this collaboration culture is something unique to Indonesia? Because I know you worked in Singapore for a long time. Do you think it's different over there?
I think it's more Southeast Asia culture. And it's more because of the Grabs and Gojeks of the region, right? Which had set this strategy ahead. But like, let's look at today's panel, right? Gavin is talking about democratizing access to data, right? So this is exactly what is going to power the growth of partnerships. And there is no reason anymore for to build own ecosystem and use your own data for your own purpose. Now the data will be available for everyone. That's what we should be looking forward to.
That's right. Okay. I want to ask Mas Rizki one question. What do you think of cryptocurrency? And do you think you would adopt it to Monit anytime soon?
Yeah, speaking about cryptocurrency, well, I think the fundamental technology per se is arresting to me because it's actually driven by community. Its resilience and definitely can improve on improve the quality of the information which we conduct the economy, and no one can interfere or account. That's the most important part. But I think it only makes sense for digital assets, at least for now, because when it comes to utilization on daily transactions, there's still a lot of work needs to be done, still slow, and actually it's very expensive to operate. So, but I think it's great to see more and more companies trying to push the development of the technology, and I think it definitely will become our new foundation of our future economy, and we hope someday we can contribute.
Ooh. Gavin or Martyna, any thoughts on cryptocurrency you want to add?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about it a lot, and I wish there was a viable use case for us at the moment to introduce it, because I believe in the decentralized system, the blockchain. The technology is really good, right? It's an open source, build anything, any currency. The barriers of entry are very low, right? And but yeah, there has to be like some general consent that something can be feasible, can be exchanged for this currency. So at the moment, I think it's early, but a very simple example of potentially cryptocurrency, which all of us could introduce, is points, right? Points, which is just available for specific products within your own ecosystem. Then it could be still exchanged for cash outside the ecosystem. And this is how you start building this decentralized footprint and identity. So I think this is pretty easy to start with, but the question is, like how quickly you can actually make something viable out of it. In terms of the blockchain as a technology, yes, we started thinking how we can start building on the top of it. So definitely I'm a fan of it as of now, but we'll see how obviously the innovations progress in that space as well.
Gavin?
Yeah, I have a pretty similar answer to Martyna. So I'm super bullish on crypto personally. But unfortunately, there's not much synergies with our business right now. Not much we can do in terms of crypto and tokens. But having said that, the underlying blockchain technology, meaning the immutable ledger technology, right, that can come in very useful for a data solution like us. So that's something we're exploring. We're not live with it yet, but hopefully we can do something soon and share it publicly.
Okay, it's very interesting and very exciting to see all of you and all of these fintech players in the industry try to adopt crypto or at least some sort of blockchain to power your startups. So I'm gonna go more into a scarier topic. A lot of people have been saying winter is coming. VCs are no longer funding startups. What are your thoughts on it? Even though we haven't really seen a lot of fintech industry being impacted, but has it impacted your personal startup? Maybe Gavin, you can answer first.
Yeah, it has. It hasn't impacted us in a negative way, but we have definitely been more careful with our burn and spend, right? So I think as a startup founder, I'm not too worried about the winter. Unique to us, we have just raised not too long ago. We have good runway, but I think taking a step back, VC still need to deploy, and good businesses will still be funded, right? I think at lower valuations for sure, but valuations were always a vanity metric to begin with, right? So I think good companies will still be funded. From an employee point of view, from somebody who wants to join a startup, I think that's where we need to be more careful. So I would, if I'm joining a startup, perhaps even ask the company outright, what's their runway right now. And I also see a trend where a lot of young Indonesians might choose larger companies or very late stage scale up over startups, thinking that it's safer, but I think it's actually not safer. Very often it's these bigger companies that do the most aggressive layoffs compared to startups, because their cost base is also much higher. And you'll be surprised, for many of these later stage companies, their runway is actually much shorter than earlier stage startups.
Interesting. Martyna or Mas Rizki, do you have any tips for founders, startup founders who may be a little discouraged from this winter?
So I'm quite positive as well. Then the reason is that like even in terms of a team, right? Finally, when we brainstorm a new feature, the first question which the team asks is, okay, monetization. What are the steps for monetization? Which wasn't a big question before that. Like the first question was, how do you acquire the users first, retain maybe or not, and then monetize hopefully, right? Now it's different. Now we are going back to school. Now, okay, do you have a valid business model? And I think it's exciting. It's exciting because we are back to the real business. And the VCs understand that. I mean, obviously, there is a lot of kind of, I wouldn't say a scare, but a lot of education now to the founders that they should think on these lines. And I think it's very positive. So in terms of advice, I would say that this is actually the right time to build a real business. And similarly, like Gavin mentioned, we just closed our round in December. So this is not something what is scary for us. And also our model, I feel like a fintech has an advantage over a lot of other verticals, because fintech dealing with real money, it's monetizable pretty much from day one. So so I think it's startup founders, like you should innovate in fintech space, because there are still a lot of problems to solve, and these are monetizable problems as well.
Okay, Mas Rizki, anything to add?
Yeah, well, I'm no expert in VC world, but I think it become more obvious that the game is slightly changing. Now VC is more become like conservative, shifting from the growth kind of mindset to revenue mindset, especially for the later stage But for early stage like us, I think the safest way is actually really to be careful, more careful on the burn rate. That's the most important thing, and expect that it will be tough journey to fundraise at least next probably 18 something months, next 80 something months, while looking a way to get revenue or even make profit as soon as possible.
Okay, so for those of you who are startup founders, don't be discouraged. Definitely be more careful, but don't be discouraged. As Martyna said, there's a lot of opportunities in the market and ideas to be monetized. Okay, I'm gonna go more into team building now. We know how important team culture and also team are to our startups. How do you guys encourage innovations in your company and culture? Maybe if Mas Rizki can answer first.
Yeah, sure. We always try and encourage ourselves to what we call it first principle thinking when it comes to solve the consider big problem in our company. And first principle thinking is actually really cool, simple way to kind of get rid of bias over assumptions on everything, so that you can find what's fundamentally true. And this fundamentally truth should be universal, like it should works in this country and also works in other countries, not like it only works in this country and it doesn't work in other country. So this should be universal. And I think the easiest way to implement this is actually really try to push yourself to always ask why on anything until you cannot answer it. So that's the simplest way to implement it. And it's amazing to see a lot of people actually failed to do this, well, including me. Even though it's very basic, right? Just ask why on anything. Maybe 5 years old can do it better, I guess. Yeah, I think that's it from me.
Okay, from Gavin, do you have any special best practices or tips on how to encourage innovation?
Yes, I do have two things. I think as an organization, keeping a flat structure is very important for innovation. So if you have too many layers, then the feedback that comes up from the team also gets filtered. So I think having a flat structure with very little layers is important for especially startups. And the second thing is talk to your users and stay close to your users. So your users are actually the smartest people. They'll tell you the problems they are facing and you will get ideas from listening to their problems. I think very often a lot of us think we are super smart and can think of great ideas out of thin air. But I think the chance of success of those ideas are a lot less than listening to your users.
Yeah, that's a really good reminder. Thank you, Gavin. Martyna, I think for you, maybe because most of your team are in Indonesia, I presume. So how do you like push these people? How do you push them to innovate?
So actually, our engineering team is in India, Philippines, and Indonesia, but most of other teams members are actually in Indonesia. That's right. So our principle is that everyone on the team is an owner of a company. And I feel like at this stage of evangelizing that is still quite easy. Obviously, as we grow, we'll have to figure out how we make sure that this that culture value continues to stay with us. But so what do? We organize, so how to think about innovation. So I think one is listening, right, to users, yes, but also team members, because and having flat organization, I feel like it becomes more and more difficult at a certain size as well. Though I think it's definitely the best solution if possible. So what I personally do is I also, apart from everyone, I want everyone really to feel as an owner. I want everyone to feel as a product manager, because I don't think that it's the product manager job to come up with the best ideas It's not at all. It's just to listen to other ideas and be able to prioritize at the end of the day and bring it to the market. So figure out an MVP and how to scale the solution. So we organized a lot of, just a few weeks ago, we organized a Shark Tank, for example, where we just threw a problem and everyone on the team could come up with a solution short presentation in groups. And then we provided rewards for those who came up with the best ideas. But not only that, we actually discussed how we can add these solutions to the roadmap. So that's one of the ways which has worked for us. Then there are different type of individuals always on a team. Those who are outspoken, those who would love that sort of a Shark Tank experience, but those also who are not outspoken. And this is where we have to organize more like, I would say, the sessions where someone can put a sticker on a whiteboard if it's in an office, or we have like an idea box as well, which we product managers receive, then ask questions, completely anonymous, and then we prioritize it as well, and everyone can see how their ideas were prioritized. Other than that, what I have realized that people come from different companies, and some of them also feel that they shouldn't be contributing to innovations because the product is like this, and they can't change it. So we also try to explain that we are living in a very innovative world, and the product today will be very different in a month because we want to innovate fast and be very agile. So it is an education, especially if the team comes from different background, but it's really worth it, because then once someone from sales and an engineer come up with a presentation for a Shark Tank and a feature to solve a specific problem, it's really amazing to see something like that. So I would say that whoever is a product manager on this meeting, what I have learned the hard way is that no, we do not have to be the most innovative, but please create an opportunity for everyone on the team and your users to share the problems and the ideas and solutions. Yeah.
I see. A lot of the people who registered for today's event are actually product managers. So I think we would need a separate session for that, Martyna, but thank you so much for the tips.